So it kind of begs the question, doesn't it? What's the worst thing you can do to get thrown into the Labor Party? Have a conscience. I mean, how warped is that sort of thinking? Because my crime was that I supposedly acted against the interests of the party. And that is worse in their eyes than acting against the interests of the Tasmanian people. I think that is warped thinking. To me, that looking at these three careers, it illustrates to me quite vividly why this government, led by this Premier, is really from crisis to crisis to crisis, which can't be fixed with a so-called makeover. Because all of us know you can't make over, you can't change a person's personality. You just can't do it. And it seems to me that each crisis faced by this government, as Jeff said and Michael said, it's about a cultural thing. It's the culture. And a culture of any organisation comes from the leader. It's no different than a football team, any business. The culture of the organisation is set by the leader. And that's the problem we've got with the Labor Party in the state. It seems to me that each crisis that has been faced by this government could easily be settled if the Premier and the relevant minister did one simple, blunt thing. If they just got up in Parliament and when asked the question, and they got up in public, in a public meeting like this, and they were asked the question, answer it truthfully. And if they did that, or each and every one of these crises would have been a so what issue. It would have been a 5-minute wonder. The state wouldn't have been dragged through, and our reputation as a state wouldn't be dragged to being compared to Joe's Queensland, which is what I'm copying every time I go into state now. Instead, what we get, instead of simple, honest answers in Parliament, direct answers to direct questions, what we get is a refusal to answer by turning it into an attack, and sometimes a character assassination of the person asking the question, or the person daring to differ in the government's decision. And you've seen a series of them over the years, from Julian Green to Warwick Rafferty to Christopher Wright, glowing tributes to some of them when they're appointed. And within a couple of months, Christopher Wright, the press release put out by the Premier when he was appointed, glowing, a man of integrity. And because he dared to differ from the government's position on the pulp mill, all of a sudden he's a shocker. And then there was me. I'll write a book one day on my experience. And now Nigel Birch. I mean, for heaven's sakes, to see Doug Parkinson on TV raving on like a lunatic. I mean, the character assassination is the worst kind. So with all that in mind, on Boxing Day last year, I identified the major issues I wanted to tackle this year, and they all came together in 1 week last week with housing affordability, water and sewage, and ICACs. But I've actually, towards the end of last year, and I had a draft bill prepared, and it had been my intention to wait until the housing was off the plate and then start consulting with people about the bill. But given the extraordinary events of a couple of weeks ago, I decided to put forward a notice of motion in the Legislative Council to introduce the bill that I've drafted to set up an ICAC. Now basically it's a model that I've come up with, which is a hybrid of interstate models, but based largely in the New South Wales model. There are many different models that have been promoted, and what I've found is that everyone's got a different view. Everyone agrees that we need something, but no one can agree on their actual model. So Jim Wilkinson, my colleague, also set up a select committee, and I've agreed to be part of that to look at what is the best model. But without going into the details, basically there are 3 things I'd like to say today. First of all, in my opinion, Tasmania does need a new watchdog type body, as much for its discouragement of inappropriate behaviour on the one hand, and as Jeff said on the other, the need to educate politicians and educate the public about ethics. Secondly, Tasmania, in my opinion, needs an integrity commissioner. We need someone to provide advice to the government, because it's so damned obvious to me, and I think everyone in this room, that if there's one thing they need advice on, it's this topic. And thirdly, I believe Tasmania needs protected disclosures legislation, or in layman's terms, whistleblower legislation, so that we don't... We need that so that we don't ever again have this outrageous blame for messenger activity that's been rife in the last few weeks, and that people like Nigel Birch are going through what he's going through at the moment. And it's all because the government is simply trying to deflect focus away from its own shortcomings. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really people power that's going to make this happen. There's been many attempts in the lower house to introduce some sort of legislation to cover the numbers, and it's not happening. We can make it happen. I'd like to finish with a quote that my son said to me not so long ago. I started with a quote from Martin Luther King, and I'll end with a quote from one of his contemporaries, Robert Kennedy. And Kennedy said this: "The problem of power is how to achieve its responsible use rather than its irresponsible and indulgent use. Of how to get men in power to live with the public, to live for the public rather than off the public."